Hi everyone. Thank you for watching my presentation for the Congreso de Identidades, Inclusión y Desigualdad 2021. The title of my presentation is Nomadism and Poverty, of how capitalism rides on the shoulders of inequality in Ciudad, nómada, rebaño, miseria by Pablo Loperena. If cities could move from place to place, feeding on each location, improving a la nomadic, the conditions of living of their inhabitants, but also producing their green energy and avoiding the over-exploitation of natural resources, what kind of a society will be developed in cities like this? Questioning this conjecture is the intent of Ciudad, nómada, rebaño, miseria, which, lacking an English translation as of today, could be translated into Nomadic City, misery flock. I would like to make a brief introduction of the author. Despite Pablo Loperena publishing his first novel in 2020, he is already one of the most prominent figures of the science fiction scene in Spain. Besides contributing to several science fiction magazines for the last years, in 2016 he was awarded the 18th Certamen Alberto Magno for his short story Ciudad, nómada, which ended up being the first of the 5 parts this novel is split into. And as the main short story included in the collection Ciudad, nómada y otros relatos, he was also awarded the Premio Guillermo de Baskerville in 2019. Additionally, Mr. Loperena won the Premio Nosferatu de Dark Space Opera in 2017 for his short story Planeta Arquetipo, included in Calabazas en el Trastero, Dark Space Opera. Mr. Loperena has admitted being influenced by Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, by George Miller's Mad Max universe, by Guillem López La Polilla en la Casa del Humo, another outstanding Spanish science fiction author, and the fictional world of Paulo Bacigalupis in his The Wind-Up Girl, among others. In this brief presentation, I'm to analyze key aspects of the novel, which speculates about the idea of very large structures, VLS, as was developed by Manuel Dominguez. In Pablo Loperena's fiction, gigantic structures become mobile cities in which their populations lead an isolated life, where subjects are artificially set apart from natural environments. The author's main idea pursues to portray the literal dislocation between different communities because of wealth inequality. Unexpectedly, there is a second nomadic city that follows the gigantic structure that frames the narration. The adjacent city is described with the attributes of primitive human societies. These communities have become clusters of earthbound scavengers that survive through the remnants and garbage produced and discarded by the inhabitants of the large structures that live literally and metaphorically up in the air, and that enjoy a life of far more advanced technological development. Therefore, the narration sets a vertical distance between populations, in which the inhabited locations, up in the air or down on the Earth's surface, imply unequal levels of technological progress and access to it, a circumstance that causes all kinds of trauma and pain on the living conditions of both human groups. This setting has been read by some critics as having been influenced by Robert Silverberg's The Wall Inside. Nevertheless, the technological development of cities in the air comes at a price, since the inhabitants of these cities of the future are ruled by a bundle of artificial intelligence that leaves no place for free will. One of the most interesting aspects of the novel is the premeditation of the author when it comes down to contrasting 2 ways of living, one in which subjects are pushed to a nomadic life of poverty and deprivation on a pre-parcel planet solely used to produce food for the ones living in the air, but with high quotas of freedom of all kinds. Another scene in which technological, well-fed citizens feel the pain of existential boredom and stagnant social mobility. The issue at stake does not change for both communities. It is unhappiness that most of its beings live with perpetually. In addition, There is a mysterious elite class that lacks much presence in the novel, even when it is absently present all the time. In either of the two cities, this upper class can enjoy the freedom of the earthbound scavengers and almost the godlike advantages of the futuristic technological achievements provided by the AIs, the artificial intelligence. It is also this mysterious class that embodies the paragon of an extreme form of perfected capitalism, where the needs of their lesser citizens are met, but their happiness is never achieved. Therefore, Ciudad, nómada, rebaño, miseria stands out as an ensemble novel with more than a dozen relevant characters, all gathering up in the glossary at the end of the book. This accumulation of characters and the diversity of human organization, from worker hierarchical coordination to atavistic forms of tribal assembling, discloses an authorial intention of Balzacian social representation. Coincidentally, there are four essential characters for the development of the plot: Salvaje, savage; Diantre, little devil; Bo Sancha, a decaying character; and Nat Garro, embodiment of the effects of a denaturalized society and its people. Each one of these characters comes with personal backgrounds that impulse the narration and highlights eventually the unfulfilled agendas that they are set to achieve. Finally, the complexity of the novel grows with the introduction of a cultural reserve, a protected space based on the Cultural Landscapes Initiative by UNESCO. That introduces a third model of human organization, or traditional sedentary city model. This third form of human cohabitation is frontally opposed to the reparcellation practices that the planet has fallen into. And it has a critical importance for the ending of the novel, since it produces the conflict that will drive the reader and the characters to the culminating climax. But this surprise also discloses the author's intentions. Mr. Loperena pushes ahead the ending to a global collision between the three worlds portrayed in the novel. Nowadays, Pablo Loperena is finishing a second novel based in his very large structures universe. But this time the narration will take place in one of the cultural reserves found in what is today the island of Tahiti. Well, thank you very much for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoy the novel, or you will enjoy the novel if you have the chance to read it as much as I did. Have a good day. Goodbye.